30-second board time. Here are the hot topics in the sport. We mentioned this the last couple of weeks that there would be another big race on July 4th weekend, but not at RedBud. It was the FIM World Junior Championship. Kind of dubbed that the mini donations for younger amateur riders. Kind of like the real donations. JT, Team France wins. They won the real one a lot as of late. They win. But there were some bright spots. Two Americans with great performances on the podium in 65 class. Cannon Zabinek taking a win. And that's actually first in a while for an American rider there.
Yeah, really cool experience. And I think anybody, they're probably their heroes like Aaron Plessinger or RJ Hampshire could attest to how difficult it is to go to France, race on tracks that these kids are familiar with, on the motorcycles that they get to race on all the time. So it's a really tough ask. And yes, it's the first time since 2018 that we have won any particular class at this race. And shout out to Caden Braswell, who was the last one to get the job done. So we talked about it a little bit last week. This race is a who's who of who will be next in the future of the sport. And remember those names, because Eli Tomac, Ken Roxon, Tim Geiser, take your pick, Zach Osborne, they were all at this race years ago.
Yeah, exactly. This is the race that really put Jet Lawrence on the international map in 2014. So Cannon Zabinek, good job. And the American team ended up finishing fourth in the overall rankings. Speaking of international, well, it was all Italian. The Italian rider, the Italian bike, Ducati made its debut. And might I add that you heard it here first. On this show last summer, Ducati said they would race in 2025, and I think it was an exclusive. So let's flash back real quick. But yeah, there will be a time where the focus is just as much on SMX here and success in America.
Yes, definitely. First of all, the U.S. market is the largest market for off-road motorcycles, so it has obviously a big importance for Ducati because the bike, the 450 MX, we're gonna be producing next year starting April, May, so it's gonna be available at the dealerships sometimes around June, July.
25.
25.
Wow,
25.
Yep.
But yeah, we know that we need a specific structure to develop the bike for the US racing, for Supercross mainly, but also for the outdoor, and we're working on it.
Well, there you go. So it was great to have Ducati there. And not only that, okay, I know the bike didn't finish the second moto. That sounds terrible when it's a brand new bike, but I don't think it was a huge issue. The bike didn't blow up. It was an electrical problem. Tony Caroli at the controls, he was in the mix. I thought he rode awesome.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. It was awesome to hear from Paolo Ciabatti a year ago, kind of previewing what we were going to see at RedBud. But when I saw how they were approaching this thing, I was kind of wondering, are you guys trying to not do well? Because let me get this straight. You're going to have a guy that's retired and nearly 40 years old. And also you're going to ride a stock motorcycle, not the factory equipped machine that he raced in Matterway Basin a few weeks ago, on more standard suspension than they would normally run. It's just like, how many times are you going to handicap yourself against a good result? But nonetheless, he got a good start. He ran up front. He was solid on a really hot day. I think there is so much credit that should be given to this team for that first moto. And yes, you could, say the second moto didn't go to plan. That's normal for a brand new motorcycle. You almost have to expect those things. But this was a huge win all the way around for Ducati. I cannot speak highly enough about the effort they put in.
We'll have more on some of the data with Tony Caroli doing this well at 39 years old. But you fans can just watch Ducati and Caroli race again this weekend at Spring Creek. That'll probably be it. And I just want to mention, as you said, this is not the factory bike or the factory team. Next year, Charlie Designs will be there with the semi we saw on display at Supercross with a full factory squad, motorcycles, non-retired racers. This is just a test run, and I think it did go pretty well with that 9th in the first moto. And now here's the track that Caroli and Ducati will have to figure out next. It's Spring Creek, one of the riders' favorites. What are you thinking?
It is one of the favorite racetracks. And for most of the riders, Saturdays, it's a job. There's so much pressure and so much expectation that sometimes the joy of riding your motorcycle gets lost on some of these riders. Not so much for Spring Creek. And I would flash back to Saturdays when we used to have a 2-day format. Riders were so happy to be riding this racetrack, and that carries into the day's racing. When those guys are out there in the motos, it just simply helps a little bit to have a really fun racetrack. The elevation, This dirt has really great traction. There's a mix of sand and clay, which is very similar to what they would practice on in Florida. So there's a lot of comfort right away. The bike works in a way that they expect it to, and that all translates into a much more enjoyable race day for all these riders in a calendar full of high pressure situations.
All right, that's really cool. Yeah, nice mix of everything on that track. It's like the greatest hits of the series all broken down into one track. Good job for everyone that works for Honda over the weekend. So it was expected to be good for Honda. They were the title sponsor of the RedBud National. They had their trials team there, including Tony Bow, who's the 37-time world champion. He did a demo that you and I got to watch. That was really cool. But most importantly, the bosses were on hand, like the bosses from Japan, who almost never come to these races. Now, I'm going to try to get these names all right. The president of Honda HRC was there. That's Yuzuru Ishikawa. Got to meet him real quick on Saturday morning. Also, the general manager, Tahichi Honda, and off-road racing manager, Yasuhiro Yokoyama. They were all there, and what they watched, JT, was a sweep. They won all 4 motos. Do you think Lars and crew here in America said, yeah, we do this every weekend, all the time?
I hope they did, because they need to lean into that. That was an epic performance by the Honda crew all day long. Like, if you're like, hey guys, we need to run a tight ship today, like let's put our best foot forward, you can't get much better than that. They owned Saturday at RedBud. So congratulations to all of them for really stepping up in the moment. Don't forget, Joe Shimoda's in a contract here. That ride, there's no way you could say it didn't go a long way in giving him some leverage. So I think it was awesome to have, visitors from Japan to kind of see America's national. And then again, man, what a performance by everybody in red.
Yeah, these are the folks that oversee all two-wheel racing for Honda, from MotoGP and road racing all the way to SMX here. So well done for the Honda boys. And then that leads us to our next topic, 250 class. We touched on this in the beginning. Yes, the record book shows that Shimoda's coming in with momentum. And if you watch the SMX Insider post-race show, Will Christian, a brilliant interview with Ben, the mechanic for Shimoda, talking about how much they believe in him, how they've been telling him to believe in himself, and that maybe now he believes in himself more that he got the win. That's all good storybook stuff, and I would tell the bosses of Japan that as well. But completely forgotten is that Levi Kitchen was on fire at RedBud. He came from 13th to 2nd in the first moto. He was ahead of Shimoda, about to take the lead in the second moto, and then he went down, more and more and more. But there are other riders who are hot in this class right now that are probably not getting noticed.
Yeah, what could have been for Kitchen? Fantastic effort. It was easily the best he's ridden all summer long. And thinking about this coming weekend at Spring Creek, he was fantastic at Spring Creek last year. So it bodes very well for him in the coming weeks. We have to think about championship a little bit. Deegan still has a 34-point lead, fair, but one more mistake. He's had 2 bike issues already this season. Both times he was able to limp it across the finish line, but any sort of irregularity, maybe the injury is not quite where he wants to be, have some sort of bike issue moving forward, this championship could be back into play. I firmly believe Deegan's still the best guy, but when you give up that many points a particular weekend, things start to change a little bit. Maybe Joe's, kind of feeling some confidence. So just something for us to keep an eye on in this 250 championship that, for all intents and purposes, coming into RedBud, almost felt like a formality.
That charge back to second late in Moto 2. Not spectacular. Deegan's had wins that were huge. Probably won't be remembered, but that might be the thing that really saved his title to minimize the points damage in that moto. Now, we talked about Sexton, really rode well in his return to the championship. Jet Lawrence really rode well in his return to the front after going down. Talk about a couple other guys. The report card, unfortunately, incomplete at RedBud for Eli Tomac. He did get to 3rd, then the bike let go, then he had the terrible gate pick in Moto 2. Still rode well, but wasn't on the podium. Aaron Plessinger was sick. That wasn't good. Jorge Prado, I think that was a sign of something. So riff on those guys a little bit, some of the others who should be contenders here.
I'm a little concerned for Tomac here. He started the season so well, so prepared. We knew he could win, and it only took him a couple of motos to get a win in this class. Ever since Southwick, where there was a lot of expectation, we're like, man, this is the time. If Tomac's going to turn it on, these tracks, Southwick, Washougal, he's got to make the most of it. And it almost feels like some of the airs come out of the balloon a little bit for Tomac. I haven't seen the intensity I want to see. I haven't seen him challenging near the front. The starts are nowhere near where they need to be. So there's some head scratching for me with the Tomac camp. We know he's capable. If he came out and was in the fight this weekend, I wouldn't be shocked. But I am a little bit surprised at what I would consider almost regression at this point. Brutal weekend for AP, as you mentioned. He was coming on. He was in the conversation to be the SMX World Championship points leader, that #1 coveted seed going into Concord, North Carolina. That feels like it took a huge turn for the worse after, really not finishing the weekend at all with an illness. That was a really tough day.
Okay, that's our take on the 450 class. Headed into Spring Creek. Okay, so let's address this topic here. Cooper Webb. So we were carefully watching Justin Cooper closing in on Webb in points, including a really tough RedBud for Webb where he ran out of gas in the first moto and again did not score as many points as he could have. But now it's worse, JT. So news just came out as we're recording this. We don't have all the details, but he is going to be out with a knee injury. So that really shakes things up for the Monster Energy Supercross champion. Oh, how quickly things can change.
Yeah, we briefly discussed this, just you and I, on Sunday. And I said, hey, we need to keep an eye on this. He definitely twisted his knee at RedBud, and I'm not sure where that sits. And I didn't have any details at the time. I don't think Coop really knew what was going on at the time, but unfortunately, he is going to get a procedure done, which is going to set him out. It could be the end of Pro Motocross, but the goal is 100% be back for the opener in Concord, North Carolina. And if he could squeeze in a national or two at the end, he would definitely like to do that. But unfortunate news for what will be defending Monster Energy Supercross champion.
Yeah, and then this just falls further into the hands of Justin Cooper. He's probably going to be the point leader in SMX when this week ends. And then how far back Webb ends up, we're going to need Clinton and his calculators to figure out that. But this Justin Cooper #1 seed thing just really got stamped.
It's unbelievable. I think it's got to be one of the most unlikely scenarios we've seen in a very long time. And it's we're new in this championship. We're going on the 3rd year. So there will be more dynamics like this long term. But I don't think anybody at any point this year, other than when we started talking about it, considered Justin Cooper to be in any way, shape, or form your leader, your #1 seed going into the 3-round playoffs. Like that, it's awesome. I think it's a testament to his overall skill and his adaptability in both series. And he just keeps coming. This is not a guy who's really faced injury at any point in his career. And at some point, that tends to pay off. If you keep putting in the hours and you show up every Saturday, good things happen. And that's exactly what's going on for Justin Cooper.
And speaking of all that, the combined SMX rankings, the playoffs are coming in September. We'll tease the dates and the locations here. You really want to come and see these in person because you get that perfect feel. You get a little motocross. You get to go on the fence. You get to camp at the track. But then you get the facilities of a Supercross event. It's kind of the best of all worlds. So it'll start in September. Again, ZMAX Dragway in Concord, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte. The Dome at America Center, that is St. Louis, but they're going to build a hybrid track. It won't be like the Supercross last year, although I want to mention that Tomac won that race last year in a Triple Crown. And then the finale is Vegas. You know what's become so popular, JT? The riders celebrating in their pits with burnouts and team unity. The fans get to see that firsthand when a championship is wrapped up, and it's going to be wrapped up in both classes in Vegas. So if you're a fan, pick that one.
Yeah, that Vegas round has been awesome. For so many years, we wanted to get back to Vegas. We lost it on the Monster Energy Supercross schedule. Now we have it as the finale for the SuperMotocross World Championship, and I think it's delivered. We have had championships come down to the last lap at this race. And what more can you possibly ask for to come to a race to see it come down? Last year, it was between 3 of them and really the 2 brothers, Jet and Hunter, on the last lap to determine this championship. So, what started out as a lot of question asking about how this was going to go, I think has been a home run as far as a 3-race run to the SMX World Championship.
Look, you know how society is these days. When the riders are celebrating the title in the pits, I look out over the sea of humanity watching, and everyone has their phone out, putting a video they're going to put on their social media. Be one of those people that get to do that. Go to Vegas. And oh, by the way, after the racing, you get to hang out in Las Vegas. Is there a better way to spend a weekend in September? So go to supermotocross.com, buy a ticket, and show on up. Back to the present day, which is this Spring Creek race this weekend. Jeremy Martin, this will be his final race. We talked to Jeremy already on the show, more about what's coming next for him. Let's look back a little bit at the career. If we asked him about it, we'd stay on here for 2 hours. Really one of the most successful 250 motocross riders of all time.
He is, and I would say one of the most unlikely successful 250 riders of all time, because that first championship season, it came out of nowhere. You know, normally you hear about, man, this guy has so much speed at the practice track, he's going to be like, I didn't hear any of that. It was like Jeremy Martin showed up and he didn't just win, he dominated the opener. I mean, absolutely ran away and nobody was even close. And it was like a light bulb went on for the kid, and he went on to win that championship and the next one really in convincing fashion. So I like to look at kind of the overall big picture story of a rider's career, especially at the end. And I would say he overcame so much to get to where he was, because think about kids like Adam Cincerillo. We knew he was going to be good from the jump. When he was on a 50cc motorcycle, we knew he was going to be good. J-Mart was one of these late bloomers that really made the most of his opportunity. When he got the chance, he took off and he won a lot of races and 2 championships to show for it.
Okay, we're wrapping up this show. Headed to Millville. If you want to watch, you know where to do it. Peacock for all the motos live and race day live qualifying coverage, and a halftime show and a live post-race show, all on Peacock. Or if you're outside the United States, subscribe to the SMX Video Pass. That's supermotocross.tv.
Hi folks, Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.